Hello and welcome to another Zozin coding session. Hello, hello. Today is night. English, nice English by the way. So I have this GUI library that I've been developing for a little bit. It's an immediate mode UI library. And I kind of felt like continuing developing it today. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to do for it. I'm gonna put the link in the description, of course, because it's open source and you may want to take a look at the source code of this library. So right now it supports only buttons. All right, so we have a bunch of buttons. You can click on them and we can detect the clicks on the buttons. The style is actually kind of crappy, I do realize that, but look and feel of the library is not the primary focus right now. Right now I'm working on sort of like a core functionality of the library. So let's take a look at how you can actually create the buttons. Right, so I think it's something like button. Yeah, there we go. So you start rendering the UI, right? And then we iterate with 5 iterations, right? And on each iteration we create a new button. And if any of the buttons were clicked, we just print the number of that button that was clicked. The number of the button that was clicked, and then we end the rendering of the UI. As you can see, the UI is rendered using OpenGL and stuff like that, but the library itself is pretty much graphics API agnostic, so it doesn't really care how it renders itself. So essentially what it has is just a buffer. Right, it's just a buffer of triangles and vertices, and it's responsibility of the integration with the specific graphics API to take this buffer of the triangles and vertices and render it correspondingly. So in our case, we're using OpenGL, so what we do here, we just take these buffers and put them in a VBO and just render it as we usually render things with OpenGL. So yeah. That's pretty much how it works. So what's interesting is that every time you create a button, right, they're not actually mashed into a single point, right? But nowhere in this code we actually specify where precisely the button has to be created. Right, so we never specified where it has to be created, it's just sort of created for us, and as you can see it's always offset like down, and this is because I had coded the behavior of the layouting of the buttons like that, because the layouting was not the focus at the time. So I'm thinking that maybe today we're going to implement some how to say that, components that allow you to lay out elements in a particular fashion. So similarly to how Qt has a Q layout, or maybe I don't know how they call it, like a horizontal box, like H box, I don't know, horizontal layout. I forgot the name of the classes because I haven't worked with Qt for quite some time, and I don't remember. I think it's a QH box layout and QV box layout, right? Essentially, so if you put elements into these like box layouts, they're going to be either aligned vertically or horizontally, and you can actually nest them together, creating different complicated layouts. So I was thinking maybe we can implement something like that, but for our immediate mode UI library. That would be an interesting exercise, I think. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. So I don't know, is it worth like putting this link into the description? I don't know, maybe it's worth putting there just in case if you're interested in how layouting is done in Qt. So I'm gonna put it like that. So it's gonna be layout management. Here it is. Here's the layout management, and my UI immediate UI library is located in here. There we go. So here are the references that are going to be available in the description. You see, this is the description. So everything I put there is going to be available in the description of the YouTube video when it comes live on YouTube. All right, so let's take a look at how it works right now. So right now we actually keep track of the widget position by the variable called last widget position. So if we see where it is used, right, every time we start the rendering of the UI, we actually reset the position at 100, but maybe this kind of thing could be customized by the user. So maybe we could actually put this position in here, right, and actually assign it like that. So the user can specify relative to which position everything is going to be rendered. Why not? Sounds like a not bad idea, to be fair. So let's see if it's going to work or not. It's actually very interesting. So let's go to the compilation errors. Of course, changing the signature changes, like breaks all of the code that depends on all of that. As far as I know, this thing has forward declaration, so let's actually fix the forward declaration. And in here, we have to specify something like vec2, 100, so that should fix the code. Let's actually also simultaneously run this entire code. As you can see, everything seems to be working. So now at any point, I can actually set something like 300 by 300. Yeah, there we go. So now it's in 300 by 300, and I can also set something like 00, and it's going to be rendered in the left top corner, right? So now we can specify what's the beginning of the rendering, right? Where the rendering actually begins. All right, not bad at all. So maybe we're going to create a separate branch layout. Yeah, so the branch is going to be called layout because we're going to put everything related to layout there. Okay, so let me commit what I've done so far. Allow user to customize last widget position via hui begin. I'm not sure if it's a good commit message, but I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with this precise commit message. All right. What I want to be able to do. I want to be able to say, for instance, IMHUI vertical layout begin. Right, I know it's a long name, but I cannot come up with a better name right now. Right, and then vertical layout end, and everything you create between these like layout brackets inside of this layout component is going to be aligned vertically, or for instance you can align them horizontally. Horizontal layout begin. And furthermore, let me think. Maybe you could also actually do things in a little bit like in a nested fashion. So j less or equal than 5 is going to be plus j. There we go. So it's going to be something like this. And in here, so this is the horizontal layout. Everything is aligned horizontally, right? But yeah, horizontally. But this is not precisely what I want right now. So let's actually align everything vertically, right? And for each sort of element in that vertical layout, we're going to align everything horizontally. Horizontal layout begin. And here we're going to have an end. So essentially what this will create a grid of buttons, right? So because we create in a vertical layout, within each vertical layout we have a horizontal layout, and within each horizontal layout we have 5 buttons, and we have 5 rows of 5 buttons, and it's going to be like 5 by 5 grid of buttons. So yeah, I think it will be interesting to actually implement something like that. So, but the names of these functions are too goddamn big, so maybe we should actually, you know, make them a little bit shorter. We can shorten up a word vertically. Maybe we can shorten it up to vert, and horizontal, something like horiz. So I also, vert is actually 4 characters. I want horiz also be 4 characters. Maybe it's going to be something like horse. Vert and horse. Yes. but it's still too big because I mean something like IMHUI button and IMHUI begin and end are pretty short and sweet, and these are still pretty goddamn long. So maybe we can try to shorten it up even more. Let's actually call the vert layout something like vertlay, right? Does it make sense? Is this still understandable? Is the naming still understandable? I'm not actually sure. Vertlay, and this one correspondingly is going to be called something like Horsley. I mean, why do we even need to have lay in there? So something like vert begin and horse begin. I mean, how can you confuse it with anything else? It's actually called like just vert and horse. I think that should be fine. That should be fine. Alright, so of course this is not going to compile because we don't have this kind of functions. Let's actually quickly create those functions. Let's just quickly stop them. Oh, we also have IMHUI text. Very interesting. I don't remember using it that much, but anyway. Alright, so this one is going to accept the state of the UI, the state of the library. So this is the begin and this is the end. And here we're gonna have horse. Horse. And let's just stub all of them in the implementation section. Shit. Fuck. Damn. Okay, so maybe I'm gonna actually also do something like this. I'm gonna say that we are ignoring all of this stuff, and in here we can do assert false to do is not implemented yet. Boom. Can your Vim do that? I don't think so. No, I do not think so. Cheers, by the way. All right. So as you can see, it tried to run it, but it quickly actually fell apart because it hit this assert. All right, so since we want to have like nested layouts, right? So since they're going to be nested, we need to organize some sort of how to say that, some sort of a stack, right? So, and basically that stack will form the current scope we're in, the current scope of the layout and whatnot. So let's create some sort of enumeration that indicates the current layout. So maybe it's going to be called something like enumeration IMHUI IMHUI layout. So it's kind of similar to the JSON serialization library that I actually implemented some time ago. I'm going to put it in the description, of course. So where is the description? My JSON serialization library. It's also immediate mod, right? JSON serialization library. My JSON immediate mod, serialization library. So essentially, instead of like building JSON AST and then giving that AST to the function that will traverse this AST and serialize it into the text, you are basically using these functions like where you indicate, okay, here comes the object, then here comes the key of the object, and here comes the value of the specific member of the object, and so on and so forth. So it's really similar to immediate UIs, but for serializing JSON. And in this particular library, I had to implement a stack of scopes because you can have nested objects and nested arrays. And at each individual point of time, when I'm calling one of these functions, I need to know within which object and how deep I'm located in there. Like in here, I need to know that I'm inside of an array, inside of an object. Otherwise, I won't be able to properly put commas and generate correct JSON on the output. Right, so I'm basically maintaining the like stack of scopes to serialize everything properly, and I feel like it's gonna be similar in the immediate UI, right? Because you have nested layouts, and for each element inside of the layout, you need to know in which layout you currently are and how deep you are there, because otherwise you won't be able to generate a proper position, right? So in case of a JSON serialization, this is needed to know when to put or not to put comma at which position, and here it is needed to know where exactly you're positioned on the screen, if that makes any sense. So it's kind of interesting how immediate JSON serialization and immediate UI rendering are very similar. You wouldn't even expect such a different tasks to have something similar, something common, right? It's very strange. I don't quite understand why, but it's very interesting. Anyway, so we're gonna have different layouts. So this one is IMHUI layout, and it's gonna be something like vert layout. Maybe I'm gonna also prefix it like that. So I have a little bit of inconsistency in here. Some of the things are prefixed in here, like some of the types are prefixed, some of the types are not prefixed, but this is because I'm just experimenting, you know. When I'm experimenting, I tend to like write a sloppy code because it doesn't really matter that much in a grand scheme of things, right? It's just like all about you know, researching or like extracting the knowledge out of this process. Anyway, so layout. So we have a vertical and horizontal one, and in IMHUI we're gonna have a stack of these layouts. Right, we're gonna have a stack of these layouts. So how I'm gonna call all of that? So I'm pretty sure to make it more general, like generally we don't need a stack of layouts, we'll probably need something like a stack of components, but maybe not, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe we do need a stack of layouts. We'll see. So I don't have enough information to actually predict what exactly needed in here. So I just need to keep implementing and gathering information. So let's actually call this layout stack. And also the layout stack probably is going to have some sort of a capacity in here, right? So we're going to say layout stack capacity. There we go. And then we're going to have a variable that keeps track of the current size of the stack. Right, there we go. Layout stack size. So we probably also need to define this somewhere. We have a lot of different like capacities, like the capacities of the buffers where we store triangles and vertices and stuff like that, and now we're gonna have a capacity of the layout stack. So the question is how big that stack should be. Like how many nested layouts are you going to have? Judging by the modern web, probably a lot. But we're not implementing a modern web application. Maybe we don't need that many nested things. So, but I don't know, just to be safe, let's put 124. To be fair, I don't even know how to properly estimate. So we can just take a look at one of the IMGUI examples, right? So it's going to be something like IMGUI. Maybe it's located somewhere in a third party IMGUI. So we have a bunch of examples. I remember actually building an example for OpenGL 3 GLFW. Here it is, and example GLW OpenGL 3. Okay, so this one looks pretty complicated. This UI already by itself looks relatively complicated. So here you have one horizontal layout. Within that one you have another, like, well, this one is vertical and this one is horizontal. Okay, so 1 2 okay, so 1 2 then 3. So it goes around like 3 to 4 deep. This one probably goes even deeper. So to be fair, I would estimate it to be like around 256 maybe, just to keep it a power of 2. Oh my, that's actually pretty cool. I really like that. Huh. I really like how many things you can have. You can have different colors and shit. What is this font? So for this font, It's a very pixelated font, and I'm thinking maybe they're not rendering the font the same way we are rendering it. Maybe they're using bitmaps and whatnot. And to be fair, it would be kind of nice to use bitmaps for the font, because right now we are rendering a font with the triangles. It's absolutely dumb idea, but I wanted to implement it because I just wanted to see how hard it would be and it's even feasible, and whether it's even feasible. But let me show you something. So it's a 313, right? So I wonder if I can do something like, yeah, so before we render all of that, when we're rendering this entire thing, so here's the amount of triangles, right? So let's put something like this. Triangle count. Right, so this is a triangle count. I'm gonna put it like this, and I'm gonna just quit right away, just so it doesn't spam the whole thing. Alright, so let me recompile this entire stuff, and I'm gonna just run it and see what's gonna happen. So oh my god, asserts are in the way. Asserts are in the way, so to demonstrate that I need to disable the asserts first. Okay. So did it work? Vertices assertion. So now it failed somewhere. So it generated too many. Okay, I see. God damn it. I just wanted to demonstrate quickly, but I got myself into the state of UI where it's just not that easy to do. God damn. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. Okay. So where is the triangle count? Let me actually save this code and revert this stuff and put it yet again and run it one more time. Yeah, this is precisely what I wanted to do. So right now, to render all of the text, we need 820 triangles. And this is because we're rendering our dumb pixelated text with literally triangles. I wanted to see if it's feasible or not. I can see that that's an absolutely dumb idea. I do realize that. And this is probably something that I have to do. Because I feel like, I think IMGUI uses textures for that. I'm pretty sure they're using texture for all of that, and so should we do. So should we. So I'm gonna put it to do for that, I think. So let me go somewhere here. .h. So there's append text. Where was the text? How do we render the text? Is it just this? It's not even implemented. I wonder why. So in here, we feel rect. Render text. So this is the function. Consider rendering the text with bitmap textures instead of triangles. It's too many goddamn triangles. And so here's the okay, so right now it's yeah, so imagine like 820 triangles just to render this, because each individual pixel, I know that it's dumb, I know that it's dumb, but each individual pixel in here, like in a font, is 2 triangles. But yeah, and it's absolutely redundant. It's just not needed whatsoever. I do realize that. I just wanted to try that. I just wanted to try that and see if it's like, if it's gonna display anything, you know, resembling the text. Anyway, I created to do for that. Let's forget about it. So let's focus on something else. But though soon it could be actually become relevant, because if we're going to generate too many triangles, it could become a problem. It could become a problem. So what I was working on? I was working on the layout stuff, right? So so I also wanted to pop my stuff. My local changes would be overwritten. Today is not my day. Okay, so I have to save this thing, then pop it out, finally, then go back to IMUI and revert the buffer, and put it back yet again, because Git couldn't, were not able to do that by itself. All right, finally, make cut. So we organized the text of the layouts, right? So we have a text of the layout stack, layout stack. So here's a layout stack. I need a function that would push an element to that layout stack, something like IMHUI push layout, right? And I'm gonna accept IMHUI layout. And then we're gonna do something like pop. I don't think pop needs to return the layout, because once we pop the layout, we don't really care about it anymore. We don't really care about it anymore. So we're gonna have something like this in here. So I think those functions should be private. To be fair, I don't really see any reason for the user of the library to even have an access to them. Like, why do you need that? You're supposed to use the vert begin and vert end, horse begin and horse end. You don't need any of this stuff. All right, so first we want to check that, well, I made a severe mistake. This thing should accept the state of the UI. So it's going to be IMHUI like this, and this one is going to be IMHUI. There we go. So we're going to assert IMHUI stack. Layout stack size, it has to be less than layout stack capacity. So there we go, layout stack capacity. And in here we're going to do what? IMHUI layout stack, right? So it's going to be layout stack like this, plus plus, and it's going to be equal to the layout. And we managed to push a thing into the layout, and popping out of the stack is relatively easy. So we have to check the size of the stack in here. So it's going to be something like that, and it has to be greater than 0, otherwise we basically have a stack underflow, right? And in here is going to be just minus minus. There we go. So now we're capable of pushing layout and popping from the layout stack. Nice. So every time now we are starting the vert begin and vert end, or horse begin and horse end, essentially what we're doing is IMHUI push layout, IMHUI layout vert, right? Is it vert layout? Vert, yeah, that's what it is. It's a vert layout. And here is an interesting thing. Vert end is just a pop, right? It's just a pop, which actually suggests an interesting question. How is that different from horse end? So if we implement both horse begin and horse end, right? Horse begin and horse end, they only going to be differ with what kind of elements we put in there. But when we pop in everything, we don't really care about what we're popping out of the layout stack. So that means the horse end and vert end have exactly the same implementation. But they're semantically not, I suppose. I think they're semantically not, because this function expects to have IMHUI vert layout on the top of the stack, and this one expects to see IMHUI horse layout on the top of the stack. And maybe this is something that we have to assert in here. So let's actually assert that IMHUI something like layout stack, right? Layout stack. Layout stack size -1 is equal IMHUI vert layout. But that also suggests an interesting thing. What if the stack is empty, right? What if the stack is empty? Well, first let's also check that this thing is greater than 0, right? So and you know what's interesting is that we already check this condition inside of IMHUI pop layout. We already check it there. What's the point of checking it twice? The reason we're checking it here, because then we check the top of the stack. So you remember how I said that we don't care about what we're popping out of the layout? Apparently it's not true. And I didn't know that until I started to use this function, right? So I couldn't predict that. Like in the hindsight, it looked like, yeah, like we don't really care. Like, why would you need that? You're popping out, you're destroying the layout. Why do you need to do that? Well, you need that because you want to verify that the user called these functions in correct order. Because sometimes if you call them in a not correct order, you will pop out not the thing that you expect. So yeah. Speaking of, yet again, about, you know, my point that it's kind of difficult to estimate how much a particular task will take. It's like, because you cannot predict things like that, right? Like I just implemented a function, I expected it to have this kind of thing, but it turned out, no, you do need to check the top of the layout. And I implemented the whole thing. I implemented the whole system and I still couldn't predict that this kind of situation will happen. This is a very simple situation, but in a real like software development, the situations are more complicated and more sophisticated, right? So, yeah. So you cannot estimate how much task will take until you start actually implementing and get into these nitty-gritty details, because you cannot, you know, have this information before you start implementing everything. Does it make any sense? I probably sound like a crazy person. Maybe I am. Don't listen to me. So yeah, so I think pop layout now should return the thing, and once it returns this thing, we're gonna check if it's the thing that we expect. So it's needed for verification. It's needed for verification that the user called this function in the correct order. Alright, so this one is going to be IMHUI layout. IMHUI layout. We already checked that is greater than 0. And maybe here we're going to have IMHUI layout result. And in here, I'm going to do IMHUI layout stack, right? A layout stack. And I suppose I want to actually have something like this, right? So this is going to be the result, and can I just return it right away? Yeah, I think I should be able to. Right, I'm subtracting, I'm decrementing the counter, returning the decremented value. I'm using decremented value as the index for this particular array, and I just return that value right away. There we go. And that assert prevents us from actually underflowing or anything like that. And just, you know, this is like for boundary checks and whatnot. So, and now I'm going to take this. It's going to be layout. And I'm now capable of removing this entire thing. And now I can do something like this, layout. Right, so I'm popping layout, but then I'm saying I'm expecting the layout to be IMHUI vert layout, essentially. That's what I expect in here, and similarly we're gonna have this thing in here. So it's gonna be layout, assert layout, IMHUI horse layout. There we go. Alright, so let me rebuild this entire thing, and it still fails in here. Append vertex, because we have too many vertices apparently. I mean too many vertices. So yet again, so this is the result of me using triangles for rendering the text. So we'll probably have to refactor all of that and make the text renderable with a bitmap font rather than triangles and whatnot. So right now I'm going to just increase the amount of triangles. So triangle count, I don't remember. Exited abnormally with execute 1, but it didn't even say anything. Is that because I have too many triangles? Triangle count. What is that? Oh, because I didn't remove this code, of course. Alright, so as you can see, it seems to be working. and something is completely broken. Ah, I don't really know what exactly broken here, because for some reason it just goes around. Why do we click on some of them simultaneously? I'm not quite sure. Is it because they're too big or something? Because they're supposed to be just going down. I don't see any reason for them to be this weird. But okay. So if I actually go back to, man, I don't know. I do not know what the hell is going on. So let's say actually that we have like 2 by 2, right? So it's gonna be 4 of them, and yeah, I don't quite understand why do they react like that, even though I didn't really change anything about layouting of the buttons. It's just like I only just edit the layout stack, but I don't use that layout stack anywhere yet. So what the hell is going on? I have no idea. So maybe if we take this entire thing and just like put it outside of all of that madness and just comment out this entire thing. Let's just comment it out like this, and let's see what's gonna happen. So we have I, but this one is J, whatever. Another, okay, sure. Here's the clue. Here's precisely the clue. So the IDs of the buttons were not unique. That's why. Yeah. So as the second parameter, well, I mean, I say it's second because the first one is the state of the whole UI. So it would be something like this. If it was C++, it would be class method, and it would be this, right? So yeah. That's why I'm saying it's a second parameter. Right, the second parameter has to be unique ID for the button. But since I'm using the I of the outer loop, it is not unique. Okay, I see now. So, and it's actually like extracting it outside of this entire thing actually helped me understand because I can now see that it was not a unique ID. I was using a wrong thing. I suppose what I need to do here, I just need to generate a unique ID. So one way we can do that is since it's like a rectangle, right? Since it's a rectangle, we can just use something like 0 Emacs. What the hell is going on? Okay. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the first row of this thing. Then I can do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And basically I can just like enumerate them through and use these numbers as the IDs. So, but to do that, I need to have rows and columns. I need to know the size of the row and size of the column. All right, let's actually put them somewhere here. It's going to be something like const size t. Row size is going to be 5, and this one is going to be column size. So here we're iterating everything by row. So this is a row size, and this is a column size, right? Right, since everything is vertical one, this is the column, blah blah blah. Okay, so and then we need to generate an ID, right? So it's going to be IMHUI ID, right? An ID is going to be essentially row multiplied by column size. Yeah, column size plus J, and here is the unique ID. So, and now it should just work correctly. So it complains about some things in here, probably because IMHUI is not a ZU. Let me actually see what it is then. It is just int. Okay. Let's just use D then. Let's just use D. Alright, so now everything, as you can see, all of them have a unique ID, and it's totally fine. I wonder what's the amount of triangles now. I wonder how many triangles do you need to have to render all of that text. It's actually very interesting. Triangles count is going to be ZU. IMHUI vertices count. Right, and let's just exit right away just to see what's going on. and 8,200 triangles just to render a bunch of text. But I mean, I'm rendering all of that on the GPU, so modern GPUs are quite powerful, so there's no problem with all of that. There's no problem with all that. All right. So I'm just pushing these things, right? I'm just pushing these things, and now when I'm starting a new button, when I'm rendering a new button, right, what I'm doing in here, I'm updating the last widget position, right? I'm using the last widget position, and then I'm updating the last widget position, right? I suppose what we need in here, right, what we need in here is abstract this logic away, right? There should be a special function to which you can give the size of your element, right? You give it the size of the element, and it returns you a new position where you can place yourself. And then this function also updates the state of the UI, so the next call will will place the next element, and so on and so forth, right? So that's roughly what's gonna happen in here, I suppose. Okay. So let me see how we can call this function. Static vec2 imHui. imHui. Next widget position, right? So it's gonna accept imHui, right? Here's imHui, and something like widget size, right? Widget size, and based on the current state, last widget position and the widget size, it will give you the corresponding thing. By the way, I just realized that it's a little bit cold in here, and I need to put on my socks, so I need to make a quick break. But recently, by the way, I configured my OBS so I can actually pause the recording, right? So now, as you can see, you can pause it, which is kind of cool. And I want to actually try it out. So I'm going to quickly just pause everything. And when I snap, I will have my socks put on. Let's just check it out. Did it work? I think it actually worked. I cannot show you, so you'll have to just trust me. You'll just have to trust me. Okay, so because I'm not showing you my socks, my programming socks. My cute pig programming socks. No, I'm too shy. Sorry. Just checking something, I'm sorry. All right, so what we were doing, we need to calculate the next widget position. Next widget position. So let me see. So last widget position. So essentially, I think we can just say that this is going to be the result, right? This is going to be the result. Last widget position, and I'm going to just return that result. There we go. There we go. And then depending on the layout, right? Depending on the layout, we are going to either change this position down or to the left. Down or to the left, essentially. So we need to check the top of the layout, but we don't have a function for that. To do imHui next. Let me actually push this thing in here, so let's compile something like that. imHui layout, imHui top layout. imHui. So first of all, we are just checking this entire stuff. So it's pretty much like pop, but instead of like decrementing, you just do -1. And the same check applies in here as well. The same check applies in here as well. And so what we want to do, we want to check if maybe we even going to switch upon the top of the layout. Right, the top of the layout is going to be AIM-HUI. Did I just lost the connection with the internet? No, I didn't. Okay, I'm gonna sneeze just a second. Thank you. Okay. So, as gonna be case, AIM-HUI what was that? Vert layout? Yeah, I think it's a vert layout. This is gonna be that, and this one is gonna be horse layout. And in there, we're gonna have a break. There we go. And if you encountered something else, well, I'm sorry. This is unreachable. AIM-HUI, next widget position, unreachable. There we go. Kill. Okay. So in case of the vert layout, right, in case of a vert layout, we need to do something like AIM-HUI, last widget position, and it's a vertical layout, so that means we have to take Y and add widget size Y, right? And if it's a horizontal one, we add X, and that's it for now, I guess, and we can see how it works or how it doesn't work. Though, if we're gonna have like nested layouts and shit, it could be actually kind of difficult to use this code. This code is not gonna be adequate, but we can try to build this entire thing just to see if it's gonna do anything. So we have, yeah, we don't even use this entire thing, so we need to start using it somewhere. So come on, wait. Oh, I thought my keyboard is dying, I'm sorry. Button. So in here, like instead of doing all of that, what we can do is just next widget position, and we can provide the size of the button. AIM-HUI button size. Right, so it's gonna be just a button size, and we don't need any of this code anymore, right? We don't need any of this code. So we just query the next widget position, and it will look on the stack of the layouts and just make a decision on how to update the last position, and just will give you like where to render itself. Go render yourself there, right? So just go render yourself. Just go render yourself. So I think it's not going to work with the grid layout situation. So let's actually try to use something more simple. Let's actually try the old code with just 5 buttons. And according to my calculations, that old code should not even work, because we coded everything so you need to have at least some layout, right? Instead of AIM-HUI begin and AIM-HUI end, you need to PHP hop, PHP hop. All right, so I'm not programming in PHP, but yeah. So we're gonna have like 5 of them, right? So it's gonna be 5, and I think it has to start with 1 because we use -1 as an indication of no ID, I think, which is kind of confusing. So we're not allowed to use the zeros ID. Yeah, because okay. I see why, because 0 is used to indicate that there is no active or anything like that. I think I see. Alright, so that's why you're not allowed to have this kind of stuff, but maybe that's alright. Maybe that's alright. I don't know, we'll have to think about it. It's kind of confusing. It's a little bit, let's actually like put it like this, active. it's a little bit confusing to use active 0 as the indication of no active widget. No active widget. But using -1 is actually against the 0 initialization rule of the IMHUI struct. So 0 initialization rule is just a rule that I made up, but I heard other people following that rule. They just call it slightly differently, right? But it's basically the idea is that if you have a structure and you just allocate that structure in some memory and completely 0 initialize that structure is a correct state, right? So this thing completely 0 initialized should be correct thing, and it actually makes it super easy to like manage memory if all of your structures like follow this 0 initialization rule. So basically, if you 0 initialize this structure, there should be no active element. So that's why 0 is the active. So to enable like a 0 initialization rule, if we're gonna make -1 as the lack of active, 0 initialization rule doesn't work anymore, right? Because suddenly 0 initialized state of the UI have an active item of 0, and where did it come from? We don't know. So one of the solution could be just to add some sort of a boolean has active, but it's just require refactoring that I don't really want to go into. So it's just like, that's just an explanation of why I have problems here, right? Just an explanation of our nation. All right. It's kind of interesting. I never saw that before. Twitch service requested us to reconnect. Reconnecting. I don't know why this makes me laugh, but I think it kind of sounds funny. Well, it is what it is. Twitch servers ask us to reconnect. We're reconnecting. It is what it is, and it isn't what it isn't. Is it not? I think it is. The missile knows where it is, because it knows where it isn't. Alright, does it compile? Does the shit compile? No. Alright, so let's actually create a bunch of butons. I'm HUI a button, and it's gonna be something like... yeah, I am farming commits right now, thank you very much. Alright. Le button, so it's gonna be just a button, and it's gonna be I. And let me see. This thing seems to be working. Seems to be twerking. So now, if I try to run this entire stuff, it's going to crash. Guess why? Because we tried to look at the top of the layout stack, and there was nothing at the top. And the reason why we tried to look at the top of the stack is because we tried to figure out what's there, so we know how to update the last widget position. So that means what you have to do is to do IMHUI vert begin, right? And then we can put an end in here, and it should have a bunch of le buttons in here. You see, there is a bunch of le buttons, but as you can see, there is no padding between them, and this is because, yeah, there is no padding between them. So, because we never coded that, and I wonder how can we code the padding there. Maybe it could be like a part of the stack frame, of the layout stack frame. That's actually a pretty good idea. And how do we specify the padding? So we can actually specify padding somewhere here. Let's say that the padding is going to be like 10, right? And yeah, that's actually pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool. So the padding is going to be 10. Of course, right now it doesn't compile because this function does not accept anything. All right, so this is going to be something like so vec2 in fact takes a bunch of floats, so that means maybe the padding has to be float as well. So let's put it like that. So it's gonna be padding, and in here it's also gonna be padding. All right. So, and because it's a float, I have to put a float literal, literally a literal. So in here we're gonna have a padding. So here's the padding, and here is another padding. So right now they're gonna be completely ignored. But the question is, what are we gonna put in there? What are we gonna put in there? Oh, I don't know. I don't really know. So it feels like instead of like storing the kind of layout, we also need to store the information of the padding, like along with the kind of layout. So let me see. So we have a layout. Maybe this thing should be called layout type, right? So this should be called layout type. And we're going to have another structure, which is going to be IMHUI layout. Right, so I'm going to type def struct. And yeah, so we're going to put it in here. So this one is going to be IMHUI layout type. And here we're also going to have a padding. There we go. So that's, yeah, this is how we're going to store all of that, essentially. Essentially. And yeah, so this stack is going to store these kind of layouts now. Let's try to recompile this into, I think. So this is the top. When we'll take a look at the top of the layout, we actually want to take a look at the type, right? To be fair, we want to take the current layout, IMHUI layout, so we're just extracting the current layout, and then we're taking a look at the layout type, right? And if it's that, we're going to do widget plus that, but also plus layout padding, right? So we are including the layout padding that the user provided. We are including all of that shite. So now when I push layout, I actually have to push two things, I suppose. Let's actually accept the type. Right, so this is going to be the type, and the padding as well. All right, so this is going to be that. And in here is going to be something like that. So this one is going to be type, type, padding, and after that I'm going to take this entire thing and I'm going to just increment it by 1. Do we have anything else? All right, so we're just appending the padding in here. So and in here we are actually I think IMHUI pop layout have to return the type, because we don't really care about padding, but we do need the type. So I think I'm going to do it like that. All right, so do we have anything else in here? So this has to be a type, type. All right, do we have anything else? So when we push something, we'll also put the padding in there, and here we're gonna have a type. This one is gonna be type, this one is gonna be type, and are we good? Are we Gucci? It looks like we are Tamaguchi. Look at that, look at that. We actually have a padding now. That is actually super cool. So what if I increase the padding? So now we're gonna have a padding equal 20, and it's bigger now. That's cool. And now, if I understand correctly, we should be able to quite easily change everything to horse. And now we have a horizontal. That's right. So it seems to be working. It seems to be working. But here is an interesting thing I noticed. Here is an interesting thing. If you want to quickly switch from a vertical to horizontal layout, you have to make a change in 2 places. Right, you have to make a change in the first function and then in the second one. If you have a multiple cursors, it's not that big of a deal, but I think generally it's not very ergonomic. What if we expose to the user the layout type and let the user choose what kind of type you're pushing in there? Right. So essentially now it's going to be something like IMHUI layout begin, and you provide IMHUI layout vert layout, and then you're gonna say layout end, and it doesn't matter which one you end. So that way, if you want to change the layout of the whole block, you just change it in a single place. And you know what's interesting is that we already have a function with precisely this signature. We already have a function with precisely this signature, and this function is called IMHUI push layout. It has precisely this signature. And what's interesting is that we basically, with IMHUI layout end, we basically allow it to pop out any kind of layout with disregarding its type. So that means the check that we're popping out the right layout is actually kind of not needed if you want to provide like a better user experience. Right. Trying to verify that you're popping out the correct thing kind of like leads to a meh experience, I would say. So yeah, it turned out it's not needed. So you see how we went from, okay, we don't need to return in IMPop layout the current type, from we need to return it because we need to verify it, to back we don't need to return it because it's not convenient for the user. So we keep switching back and forth again, and this is called software development, and this is normal because you're constantly exploring like different aspects of your system that you're building and realizing, oh, okay, it has to be like that, or no, it has to be like that. It's a creative process. You see, it is creative process by its nature, right? Sometimes it looks like this, and it's kind of difficult to predict all of that. The only way to predict that it's going to be like that is to try to do that. You cannot predict that in your head. If you can predict that in your head, that means you're doing development in your head. And the next question that I want to ask, why the hell you're doing development in your head when you can do development on your computer? It's much easier, right? So, you know what I'm talking about? So, yeah, maybe we can get rid of this vert begin and vert end madness and just expose IMHUI push layout and pop layout, but call them begin layout and end layout. You know, layout begin and layout end, and just let it specify this thing. I think it's going to be beneficial because now if I want to change the whole block, I can just change it in a single place and I don't have to worry about that. In my opinion, that simplifies everything. That in fact simplifies everything. You want to see something cool? You want to see something cool? The power of editing. It is actually not, I didn't edit that. I actually like paused the recording on OBS and I unpaused it again. So I basically can have like a rudimentary form of editing now, which is kind of cool, I'm not gonna lie. Unfortunately, this kind of shit is not possible live. But I mean, imagine streaming live in 2021. I mean, yikes. Yikes. What is this, 2020? Alright, so I hope I didn't fuck anything up. Everything seems to be okay. It would be really awkward if that didn't work. It would be really awkward, but I hope it worked because I tested this kind of trick off camera. I already tested it before trying it out. So it must work. It must work. Otherwise I'm gonna look like an idiot. It's almost like I look like an idiot all the time. So anyway, what we want to do? We want to get rid of these functions. They are kind of obsolete now, right? So IMHUI vert begin, vert end, all of that is not needed. So, and now these kind of functions like push layout and pop layout are going to become public ones, right? And I don't think we need to return anything here. We're just popping things, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, mate. And here I'm gonna just decrement the size. I'm just decrementing the size. This one is gonna be layout begin, and this one is gonna be layout end. Okay, so this is the layout begin, and this one is the layout end. Alright, so this looks okay. And now if I want to change the layout, I just change the layout in a single place, recompile everything, and it just works. So you see, it's a little bit more convenient, I think. I think it's a little bit more convenient. Just looking on the Discord. Sarimon posted his cat. This is so cute. I really miss having the cats. Cats are so cute. My god. Anyway. Anyway. All right, so let me see, let me commit whatever we have in here. Implement layout stack mechanism. Right, layout stack mechanism. I'm gonna push that right into the repo. So now we need to be able to support nested layouts, right? We need to be able to support nested layout. And I think as of now, nested layouts are not really possible. Let me explain why. Let me explain why. It's actually kind of funny, right? So essentially, you start from a particular position, right? You add and you have a vertical layout. So you fit your widget in here, right? You fit your widget in here. And if it's vertical one, the next widget position is going to be here. Or if we include padding, it's going to be like around here. Sure. So next, you add another one, right? You add another one, and so on and so forth. Right. Then your vertical layout has finished, and it turned out that this layout is within a horizontal one, right? It's within a horizontal one. So that means from here, like from somewhere here, you have to go all the way here, but we don't have enough information to actually go there, because to have enough information to go there, we need to know the maximum value of these widgets, right? And we need to know the beginning position of this layout. So there's so many things that we need to keep track of. And I think we need to keep track of this information while we add in elements to the current layout. Right, so we can quite easily, as we push more and more elements, we can quite easily figure out who's the biggest one, right? So that means we will know the width of this entire layout, right? And as you start the layout, you know where it begins. So it's relatively easy to actually, you know, keep track of all that and then update everything accordingly. So I think so, at least I think so. So let me think. So for now we can just keep track of the begin position. We can keep track of the begin position and the width of the whole thing. And I don't know how to do the transition from one layout to another within the nested one, but we'll probably figure that out at some point. We'll probably figure that out. IMHUI. All right, and so we can keep track of all of that inside of the IMHUI layout thing here. So here is the padding, and we can also keep track of the start. So this is the start position. So this is our start position, and also we can have something like a width, right? So this is the width of this entire thing. So, but now we need to fill in that information somehow. We should fill in start and width when we begin the layout. So let's actually take a look at the begin, maybe layout begin, right? Layout begin. And in here, we're gonna do something like width, something like width initially is going to be 0, and the start, I suppose the start is going to be the last widget position, right? I think it kind of makes sense. So last widget position is the start of this entire stuff, and there you go, we keep in track of all of this stuff. All right. We're keeping track of all of this stuff. So, but we don't update the width, right? You see what I mean? We do not update the width. So we should update the width every time you request the next widget position, right? Every time you request the next widget position, we have to take the widget size, and if it's greater than the current layout width, you should update it. And I'm thinking, to be able to update the state of the current layout, we should return that layout by a pointer. So this entire thing has to be a pointer, right? So let me see. So this thing is going to be like that, and we're returning a pointer. So then later we'll be able to modify it. Hopefully we'll be able to modify it. Maybe this kind of position should be also part of the layout, so maybe at some point we're gonna get rid of the last widget position, but we'll try not to go that far yet because we don't have enough information to actually make these kind of decisions. All right, so this is a pointer now, and there we go. It's gonna be something like that. There we go. Everything looks okay. Okay. So depending on the kind of layout, right, we're gonna either keep track of the width or of the height. Maybe we should keep track of both, actually. Maybe we should keep track of both of them. It's kind of interesting. It is kind of interesting. You may start at a particular position. You may start at a particular position with a size of 0, 0. Once you insert a new element in there, the start position of the layout doesn't change, but its width and height changes accordingly. As you need to push another element in there, the position where you want to push that thing is going to be calculated not based on this last widget position thingy, but it could be calculated based on the start position of the widget plus its height or width depending on the type of this thing. Right, and then width and height could be updated accordingly. So basically, the last widget position is going to be replaced by start plus the size of the widget. Start plus the size of the widget. That is actually very interesting, and maybe because of that we'll be able to get rid of the last widget position, because I think as we make the layout more and more complicating, it becomes kind of like obsolete, right? It becomes more and more obsolete. And it's gonna actually enable a lot of cool things. All right, I think I'm gonna make a small break because I need to pee and stuff like that. Maybe make a cup of tea. I'm not sure if I want to make a cup of tea because it's kind of a night, but it's not that late, so maybe I'm still gonna make a cup of tea. But you're not gonna notice anything. I'm not gonna put any music on because it's gonna be just you know, editing magic, right? So not really editing. I'm just gonna pause the recording and then I'm gonna unpause it when I'm back. So get ready. I'm gonna be back with the tea. Did it work? Did it work? I think it was lame. I don't remember if I had headphones on when I did this snap, so maybe it was lame. And also there are new messages in the chat and it's just like, ah. All right, so we have a tea and let's actually start. Let's actually continue working on this entire thing. So I don't remember what I was doing. So I was thinking, yeah, I was thinking to actually completely get rid of the last widget position. In how many places do we use it? We use it in here, right, when we start this entire thing. And that's it pretty much. And when we also begin this entire thing. Okay, so the question is now, when we start a new layout, how do we know where to start the layout? How do we know where to start the layout? So it's basically almost like adding a new widget, except we should not update the layout. So right, essentially we should be able to ask where you can put your new widget, without the updating the state of the layout, right? So because this thing, it's sort of like when you do imhui, I forgot the name of that function, the function next widget position, right? It tells you the next like position, but it also updates the size. It feels like we need to split this function up into two. The one that tells you the next position, right? The one that tells you the next position, and the one that updates like the layout according to its size. Right. So this is actually very interesting. Because that is very important. I didn't know that this thing needs to be split in two. So maybe the one that returns the next widget position is going to be still called the next widget position, and so another one is going to be something like imhui. Essentially, I don't even know how to call it, but this one is not going to take the widget size, right? It's only going to query the position, right? It's only going to query the position. This one is going to be something like add widget to current layout. Maybe we can remove current. Add widget to layout. Maybe it could be something like expand layout. Yes, it could be something like expand layout. This thing does not actually have to return anything. Right, so and in here, this is basically what we do to expand the layout. Right, so we take the current layout, we take a look at the top of the stack of the layout, and we just expand everything according to the widget size. Right, so it's going to be vec2 widget size. There we go. So we're expanding the layout, and then the next widget position is going to just return the last widget position for now until we get rid of the notion of the last widget position. Right, until we completely get rid of it. So yeah, we managed to split this function into two, and let's actually try to recompile this entire thing and see if it's gonna work or not. Okay, so in here, we take the next widget position, and then we can do something like imhui expand layout, and we can put the size of the button to expand the layout. So that's basically what we're doing in here. And what's next? And we don't have to specify this thing in here anymore. There we go, seems to be working, And what's fun is that when I'm clicking on them, oh, this is because I actually never handle the clicks, so I think you have to do something like, something like this, clicked button this, and it's gonna be I, there we go, let's see. It's gonna work or not. It's gonna be clicked button 2. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can easily change the layout to horse, and that works as well. That in fact works as well. Cool. Alrighty. So as I already mentioned, I want to get rid of the last widget position in favor of the start plus size of the current layout. Start of the current layout. I'm HUI layout. Right, so we have a start, you have a width, but in fact what we have to have is size, I think, which initially is going to be 0, and the padding is just used to expand it, to like additionally add to the size when you expand the size. All right, that is very actually interesting. And we want to get rid of the last widget position, which actually may create some interesting obstacles, because we don't know where to start the root layout. How do you even start the root layout if you... Maybe we're gonna have like an implicit root layout. Yeah, because in imhui begin... Oh, okay, that is actually very interesting. So essentially, when you start the rendering, you can implicitly start a layout of some sort. You can implicitly start a layout, but with a particular position. All right. So you do layout begin, but there's no way for you to actually push the position into the layout, right? So we don't have a function that pushes the position into the layout. I guess we'll need to create one, I suppose. So there's a layout begin, right? Layout begin, and we need a function that accepts type, padding, and the start, right? So maybe this kind of function is going to be called something like layout start, and I don't think it has to be visible for the user, right? So I don't think it has to be visible for the user. We can put it somewhere here, and I suppose the whole implementation of this function is going to go here, and the start is going to be the one that is provided by the user, right? The one that is provided by the user. And here is an interesting thing. When you start the layout, so this one is for the internal usage, right? This one is for the internal usage, and this one is going to be for the user. And you don't know where to start the layout unless you are inside of the other layout already, right? Inside of the layout already. So that means we'll have to take the current layout. I'm layout. I am HUI layout top. Right, I extract, is it layout top or is it something, was it top? Layout top? Huh? Top layout, oh my god. Oh, alright, okay. Layout, I'm HUI top layout. I'm providing this thing, and this is going to be the pointer. And of course, if you don't have any layouts there, it's gonna crash. So what we're gonna do, and then once we've got that layout, oh wait, I can just call imhui next widget. But this is precisely why I needed this function to be separated, because that's where we're gonna start now. Yes, this is precisely where we're gonna start. So next widget position, right? This is gonna be next widget position. Wait, what? Wait, what? Next widget position. So this one is actually, as you can see, this function is completely renamed. So it's going to be expand layout, next widget position. I think I need to sip my tea. I'm actually getting a little bit tired, so I'm starting to make mistakes, and it's just like, but I'm almost there. I think I'm almost there. I think I figured out a pretty cool layouting system. To be fair, I'm starting to think that maybe there should be no implicit layout, because we can just keep track of the start of the whole rendering. So next widget position may basically return the position that you provided in imhui begin, right? Because you start imhui with a position, we can just store it and never change it until the end, right? And never change it until the end. And if you try to get the next widget position without the layout, right? Without the layout, it is going to return that. But again, what if you just want to start rendering and push widgets without caring about layout? They should be laid out properly. Maybe in that case we need an implicit layout anyway. I guess, yeah, I think maybe it's a good idea to keep an implicit layout anyway, because we just need to have some sort of a default, right? Or maybe we can, I don't know, imhui begin should also provide the layout that you want to have in there. But again, I don't know. It's just like it depends on how we're going to use this library. So I suppose we just don't have enough information to make this kind of decision. So we just need to try to use this library in different circumstances and stuff like that. And then the answers to all of these questions will become more obvious, right? We just don't have enough information yet. I just don't have enough information yet. Alrighty, but for now I think I'm gonna stay on keeping the layout, the implicit layout. So here's the start, and maybe I'm gonna do something like layout start. So well, let's keep it like this. So it's gonna be start. So it's gonna be imhui. So the type is this, the start is this, and the padding is this, and there we go. So here's the entire thing. Here is entire thing. Okay, so what else do we have in here? So this thing, static declaration of a non-static function, this is because I actually forward declared it. So with this one is called size now, and I would say that the default size has to be 0, 0, right? The default size has to be 0, 0. So now I take the implicit declaration of function. Are you serious? Did I just accidentally remove it? Yes, okay, C, classic C. Next widget position. So let's actually put it somewhere here. Okay. Has no member last. Okay, now next widget position should actually act slightly differently. Also, I want to keep expand layout nearby because they are kind of related to each other. Next widget position, and yeah, so they're sort of related to each other, but not really. Now I'll still need to take the current layout. Right, I'm taking the current layout. imhui top layout, imhui. And it will just depend on the layout. quite specifically. So let's actually switch upon the layout type. Right. So this is the layout type. And if it's vert layout, right, if it's a vert layout, it's going to be horse layout, and it's going to be assert. It's kind of interesting. The Twitch keeps requesting to reconnect. I wonder why. Maybe they're deploying something and keep redeploying because something doesn't work, and that's why everyone has to reconnect or something. That's really sus. It's really sus, not gonna lie. So it is in fact really, really sus. False. I'm HUI next widget position unreachable. All right, so if it's a vert layout, what are we doing essentially? We are returning returning IMHUI actually layout start, right? Layout start, but we have to add vec2 layout size, so it's a vertical one, so that means we need to take y, and for x we have to keep it like that. Yes, but since it's a C, we cannot overload this kind of function, so we'll probably have to do something like this. So this one is going to be start x, then start y plus layout y. So this is a new position if we are talking about vertical layout. If we're talking about horizontal layout, y is gonna stay the same. Y is going to stay the same, but it's the x that is going to be updated, like this. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's actually pretty much it. And we don't have to return anything in here, right? We don't have to return anything in here. All right, so the next compilation error. IMHUI top layout is not available here. Okay, let's actually bring it to the top. And now it's available in here. Okay, so now we don't have a last widget position, and this is not what we have to update anyway. Right, this is not what we have to update anyway. I think next widget position should be above the expand layout, because we may use the next widget position to expand everything properly. Or maybe not, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure. So in here, if the, okay, so we already have a particular vertical layout. If we're vertical layout, we append y, but get a max for x. So this is going to be a size. We append y, widget size y, but get a max for x. So it's going to be IMHUI size x. If it's less than widget size x, we're reassigning IMHUI. It's not IMHUI actually, it's the current layout. Layout size x equal widget x. There we go. So, and if it's horizontal, it's the other way around. We are appending x, interestingly, plus padding. I completely forgot about that. Plus padding. So it's going to be layout padding. It's quite important. Okay. So layout size x plus widget size x plus layout padding, right? Layout padding, and then layout size y less than widget y. Layout size y equal widget size y, and yeah, there we go. This is how we're gonna be updating all that. And when we do imhui begin, what we have to do is actually imhui layout start. Let me grab layout start in here. Right, so we need to specify this entire thing in here. So by default, let's actually use something like imhui vertical one. Yeah, let's actually use the vertical one. So this one is the start position of the whole rendering. So we're going to put it in here. And what kind of padding are we going to use in here? I don't know. Let's actually put like 10 pixels. I don't know. Yeah, pretty much it. Pretty much it. And I suppose when we end the rendering in here, so it's going to be end, we have to pop that layout. So let me see. imhui layout end. Right, that's going to be imhui, and there we go. So imhui begin. Alright, so we begin and end this entire thing. We still haven't implemented text for some reason. I don't know why. So let me actually put some sort of a to-do. imhui text is not implemented. For some reason. It's supposed to be like, I don't know. It's supposed to be like a label. Right, it's supposed to be like a label. Anyways. Okay, so everything seems to be working, but I think we still have some stuff to do, especially when we're finishing the UIs. UI layout end, right? Okay, so when you finish the UI, finish the layout. When you finish the layout, you have to take the layout, the size of the layout that you got, and you need to append it to the next layout, to the layout above, to like expand it. You know what I mean? All right, otherwise it's not gonna work. We can test it out. We can try to test it out, and we'll see that it's not gonna work, just for the sake of demonstration. So let's actually say that we're gonna have something like 2x2 buttons, right? So it's gonna be size t j1, j less than 2 plus j, and it should be equal to 2, of course. So in our case, the actual ID, imhui ID. I don't remember if it's capitalized like that. I mean, the compiler will tell me. Multiply by 2 plus j, so here's the ID, and then we can put it like that. And in here, we don't even need to start this kind of layout because we have an implicit vertical layout in the begin. So maybe we're gonna move these things like in here, right? So I'm gonna have nested horizontal layouts. Let's see if it's gonna work or not. And as you can see, it didn't work. So we're supposed to actually see 2x2 grid of buttons, but we don't see that because we don't update the layouts when we pop them out. Right, when we finish the layout forms a widget that needs to be added to the layout higher. Otherwise, it won't be able to actually calculate all of these positions correctly. And that's precisely, so I think 2 rows got smashed into a single row. And I wonder if it will even detect 2. It doesn't detect them, but it detects like the last 2 buttons in here, not the previous one. I think button 1 and 2 are behind buttons 3 and 4, I think. That's just my hypothesis. And the way to fix that is when you pop out the layout, right? When you pop out the layout, let me actually think. We can try to take a look at the top of the layout, right? So this is going to be the top. I don't know how to call that one, so maybe I'm going to call it just A. imhui top layout imhui. Right, so, and that will give me the size. Right, so that will give me the size. Maybe this is precisely what I want to do in here. I'm gonna just take the size and v2 layout size. There we go, v2 layout size. And now, this one is very interesting. So I'm gonna be decrementing this size I'm going to be decrementing the size, and if IMH layout stack size is greater than 0, if it is greater than 0, we're going to take the layout, the like parent, okay, let's call it parent, IMHUI top layout IMHUI, and to be fair, we don't really need to do that. Right, so essentially we can just call directly expand. Right, we can call directly expand IMHUI with the layout size. Might as well call it child size, child layout size. Right, so this is the child layout size, then we pop it out, we check if we still have something, and then we try to expand it, because if we don't check that, expand layout will actually crash, because IMH top layout also checks for whether you have something on the stack, so it's quite important to check for all of that. And I think after this change, we're gonna see a grid of 2 by 2 buttons. So let's see. There we go. First try. Got Kudir. First try. Boom, boom, boom. It's actually very interesting. Huh. This is because they don't start from 0 or something, but their IDs are kind of weird, to be fair. I'm not gonna lie. Their IDs are kind of weird. So maybe one of the things we have to do, we have to actually iterate them from 0 to like 2 or whatnot. It's gonna be like 2, and then this entire thing has to be to be +1, because we cannot use 0 as the ID. Alright, so, and this one has to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, there we go. And so we're using padding as this, so if we do 10, there we go. So we can try to extend the grid now. So it's going to be size T rows, 5 calls. So we iterate in rows, then we iterate in calls. This is calls, and let me see, and there we go. We have a 5 by 5 buttons. That's actually pretty cool. So what if we're gonna have more rows? Let's actually say we're gonna have 10 rows. I'm pretty sure it's gonna crash the whole application because not enough triangles. It's so dumb. My god, this is the dumbest. Like, rendering all of that with like text with triangles was the dumbest decision I've ever made in my entire life. Holy shit. Okay, so yeah, now we have a lot of buttons. Do they all feel there? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. I guess it's exactly like 10 of them. It's actually pretty cool. Yeah, it's exactly 10 of them. All right, that's pretty cool. I really like that. And yeah, so we implemented a simple layouting system that is capable of doing this shit. That's actually pretty cool. But the problem is that we cannot customize the padding for that implicit layout in here, right? So it's kind of a problem, I think. I think it's kind of a problem. How do we customize it? So there's 2 ways to customize it. We can actually put a parameter in here, all right, like this, or we can just get rid of the implicit layout and force the user always provide the explicit one, which may look kind of weird. All right, it may look kind of weird, but I don't know. Yeah, let's actually provide the padding in here in IMHUI. So IMHUI begin, so this is going to be float padding, and maybe later in the future I'll change my mind, but because like we don't have enough information to actually decide how it has to be done, at least for now. So this one's going to be 10 by 10, and what's cool now is that, okay, I want to remove this warning because it's kind of annoying, not gonna lie. This one is just D, alright. So what I want to be able to do now is, where's my main? Yeah, so I want to have something like padding in here. So it's going to be floating, padding, and I'm going to set it like that, right? And it's going to be padding, right? As you can see, we have a centralized place from which I can modify all of that, and then I can say padding is gonna be 20 now, motherflipper. And now, yeah, all of them are padded with like 20 or whatnot. How about 50? All right, and all of that controlled in a single place. Well, it looks kind of weird, but overall, I think it's working. So then I can just set it to 10. All right, so that's actually pretty pogue. We have a simple layouting. My God, like you have a horizontal, vertical one, and maybe something like here could be controlled independently. You can have grids and shit. Yeah. All right, so let's do committee, I suppose. I think it's worth doing a committee, and maybe even pushy. So what did we do in here? I think we implemented support for nested layouts because, yeah, we implemented layout stack mechanism on the previous commit, and here we implemented nested layouts. Okay, implement nested layouts. All right, I'm gonna push that right into the repo. Okay, so how many to-dos do I have? I just realized that I have a lot of to-dos. I have 5. So maybe I should report them as issues. Vertices adjacent pixels are not reused via the indexing. If we're gonna implement the bitmap rendering of the text, this is gonna be completely obsolete. So consider rendering, yeah. So this thing is not implemented. It's a little bit confusing to use active. Yeah, that's true. It does not handle the situation when text is too big to fit into the boundaries of the button. It is in fact true. It is in fact true, but maybe the button could form some sort of like an inner layout, and through the layout mechanism we can figure out the size of the text, and we can use the size of the text as the size of the button. That would be kind of cool. I'll think about that, but I'll think about that in the scope of this specific to do. Anyway, so I think I'm going to create a pull request for IMHUI. We don't even have a CI. What's the point? What's the point? Well, I mean, I can at least snitch up some of these things. For those who doesn't know, Snitch is a small tool that I implemented a long time ago, which I use for collecting to-dos in my source code and reporting them as GitHub issues. I think it's a pretty cool tool, and I use it every day for my development. So I basically integrated it into my development process, and I'm going to put it in the description. So Snitch to-do collector tool. And I'm going to put it here. All right. So and how it works. So essentially you go into your project and you do something like snitch report, and yeah, you just do snitch report, and it just goes through all of the to-dos and asks you, do you want to report that? 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 And then you answer yes to ones that you want to report, and it just reports all of them via GitHub API. And if you take a look, well, this is not the right issue tracker. If you take a look at this thing, here are all of the issues reported. Well, sometimes it contains garbage, but there are some ways to actually get rid of this garbage. You can get rid of it manually, or you can use a title transformation. So in Snitch, you can set up title transformations like this. So you can specify the regular expression and what to replace this expression with. It's actually quite convenient for getting rid of the garbage from the titles, because it's supposed to be language agnostic, so sometimes you need to clean up the titles. And we have a mechanism for doing exactly that. It can be configured per project and so on and so forth. It's pretty cool, trust me. All right, so let me push that right into the repo, mate, or right into the repo. And let's see if we can merge it now. All right, so let's merge this pull request. Another thing I probably want to do. So consider rendering this thing. So this thing is kind of blocked by this thing, because if we're gonna use bitmap textures, this thing is just like, it doesn't matter, right? So it's not a problem anymore. So I'm gonna just say something like blocked. I wonder why GitHub doesn't have like a predefined blocked label, but I mean, I have to create it myself every time. So I'm gonna use the red color. So let's actually keep yeah, thank you RNG, very cool. Okay, so this is gonna be blocked, and we're gonna say blocked by 6. Blocked by 6. And blocked is not even a keyword in GitHub. Apparently issues can't be blocked according to GitHub. So nothing ever blocks anything on GitHub. It's very cool. It's very cool. All right, so let's actually merge everything in here and recompile everything. So I'm gonna do something like this: make -b main, and that's the result of today's stream. Actually, it looks kind of cool. I think it looks cool enough to actually put into the README. It still looks derpy as hell, to be fair. It still looks derpy as hell because it's like look and feel is just like really like programmer's art or whatnot, but I think it's cool enough to put into README to attract like some attention and whatnot, you know. Your README is supposed to grab attention, right? So let's actually put something like this. It's going to be called thumbnail, right? This is going to be thumbnail, and I'm going to put this thing in here, right? So as we implement more and more features, maybe that thumbnail is going to be more sophisticated, right? So maybe the next thing is going to be like we add edit fields. Well, before we can add edit fields, we need to fix the problem with the goddamn text, because rendering text with triangles was a goddamn bad idea. All right, so maybe this is going to be the next thing. Thumbnail. So this is a thumbnail. Thumbnail.png. Is it PNG? Is it PNG now, yo? All right. Add thumbnail, and let's push that right into the repo. Fucking right into the repo, mate. And is it working? My god. Okay. I really like how derpy it looks. It's like yeah. Look what I created. So and the name also fits perfectly, I think. Yes. Come on, fucking this. I think I'm actually proud of this thing enough that I'm gonna fucking star it. Yeah, I'm gonna give myself a star. It's like I'm one of those people who like myself on Twitter. Anyway, so I think it's gonna be it for today. I think today was a pretty good progress, and I really enjoyed today's stream. But unfortunately, it is time for me to go. It's already 2 a.m. and I'm a little bit sleepy. Thanks everyone who's watching right now. I really appreciate it. Have a good one, and I see you next time. Nothing much to say. See you next time. Thanks for watching all of this crap. Check out the description with the links and stuff like that. All right. Love you all.